with, so we'll take listener suggestions and see what people want to put us that. So at the moment we'll be keeping in place the Player of the Year, the Young Player of the Year. We got rid of Coach of the Year because we felt it kind of goes wherever it goes, doesn't it, sort of thing. And other people cover that sort of stuff off in their awards better than we need to, I feel. Same with Club of the Year. I think we ditched that one, didn't we, as well. But we had worst import and best import. Now I think we should change those to worst signing and best signing.
Okay, so it retains, it's all encompassing rather than just in and out.
Especially with like the amount of players coming in and out of the NRL and that sort of thing now that we're going to start seeing, but also British players as well. Yeah. But also I think, it opens it up to cover more teams and stuff like that, and there's more choices. Yeah. We have most underrated and most overrated, both known as the Carl Awards.
Yeah. He's had a quiet season this year in terms of being under and overrated by everybody, hasn't he?
And we also then have the Listener of the Year, which means like the listeners get to vote for who they've enjoyed the contributions of the most. Yeah. Sorry, to give it its full title.
Yeah, I was going to say
the Dr. Bob Phillips Listener of the Year award, because he's won it both times in a row so far. But what I'm wanting feedback on from everyone is the extra question that we're going to have. I forgot the See You Next Tuesday and the Clown Shoe Awards. Oh yes, for the biggest idiot. Well, the biggest. So there's See You Next Tuesday in rugby league and the daftest idiot in rugby league, basically. But the other thing I want input on as well is the extra question to add in to replace Beard of the Year for this year, is it's the topical question this year, let's say, is how do people want to do it this year? Because we've always had it free reign open to just send in what you want. Yeah. In the past, it's been quite labour intensive with how we've done it. Now we're going to do it on a Google form this year to make it, because we've learned how to use those and they seem to be effective, and everyone's getting used to them with the match reviews. And we did our season preview episode based on Google form submissions, didn't we? So we're going to do it on a Google form. Do people want a short list that me and Tom will pick? Yeah. And then the option of an other as well, right? Or do people just want blank free text to go with whatever they want to go with? We're happy to do either, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have an opinion either way?
No, whatsoever. No, my opinion is that we should let the listeners decide.
Yeah, if we do a short list, the problem is we have to come up with the people.
Yeah,
but we will always leave a free text option, because this is the listeners' show to give their opinions. I
think. Let's see what the prevailing desire is in terms of how we're going to administrate it,
and then the final thing to tack on that as well is we've seen some teams' seasons starting to end this week as lower levels have finished and rolling more towards, and want people to start thinking about this. We'll want people's fan reviews for the season. Yeah, on how their teams perform. So following the similar format to years before, everyone's got a smartphone pretty much, or something they can record their voice on for a couple of minutes. Do 2 or 3 minutes talking about your favourite games, your favourite moments, your favourite players, that sort of thing. And then send them in to us by email to superleaguepod@gmail.com, and we should be able to convert those into a format we can use for the show. Yeah.
That's always the last couple of years, that's been my highlight, listening back to that show and listening to other people's voices and hearing other people, like other noises coming out of the Super League pod.
And so we want as many of those as possible on every team from all levels. Absolutely. Probably not the NRL, because other people cover that better than we do. But for Super League, Championship even, and League One, we're happy to take your reviews on all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your feedback and shout-outs taken care of. Let's take a look now at a quiet week in news from around the world of rugby league. Okay, so we have got tons of rugby league news this week, Mark. We got struck by the SLP Tuesday curse as well on a couple of stories this week, didn't we? So we'll start with one of those.
Well, they've not stopped since, though, after the story.
No, they've just kept coming. It's been like the news conveyor belt has been spitting out some crackers this week. So we'll start over in East Hull, where former England captain Jimmy Peacock is to come out of retirement, or has come out of retirement, to play for Hull KR for the rest of the season. The 38-year-old retired at the end of last year after helping Leeds Rhinos to win the treble and to become the head of rugby at the Lightstream Stadium. However, injuries have prompted the prop to return as a player. Although my family don't quite understand it, it feels like the right decision. The time has come for me to put my boots on again, Peacock told the club website. Physically, it may take me some time to get up to speed, but I've been preparing as best I can, and mentally I'm in a good place. Unfortunately, salary cap restraints meant we were limited in terms of bringing in reinforcements before the deadline, but we explored the option of using somebody internally, and I was officially registered as a Hull KR player with the RFL in case of emergency. So we even got quite a bit of feedback on this one. This was the sort of story that people like to talk about, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, tons. So Wire Joe, he hit us up with, here's your Tuesday breaking news story, boys.
Yeah.
Paul Campbell, he said, that's a bit shit. I guess the Leeds RFL connection works.
Oh dear, Paul.
Tyler Cass fan said, I hope his inclusion in the team doesn't take the shine off the excellent performances of Dane Tills.
Well, few things can.
Sean Orton got in touch. How much of his directorship salary will count towards the cap? That's an interesting question.
That is the pertinent
unanswered
question,
unanswered one, I suppose. But for the amount of season that's left, obviously that'll be a part of it, I would have thought. And I can't imagine they were spending to the full cap as it was.
You wouldn't have thought so, looking at the squad.
And it's not like they're giving him any extra money.
No.
They'll just have to figure out with the RFL how they need to apportion that to the cap.
It's not like Peacock's on £1 million a year doing what he's doing, is it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? His wage will be comparable to the
But also,
the club.
They wouldn't put his whole wage onto the...
No.
You wouldn't have thought.
No, you would assume it would work
because
in
it's
like a
fulfilled a role
pro-rata
all
way.
the year. And the Viking of Ching, he said, that's handy just in time to play London. Chris Macy on a similar theme. Oh, just great. Just before our match on Sunday, bloody typical. What do these people think he was going to do?
I don't understand. I think it's it's just a case of getting your excuses in early. If you're telling me that your team's preparation, your ability to execute against Hull KR will be so deeply impacted by the inclusion of a 9-month retired 38-year-old, then you've got some pretty serious problems at your club. As much as I love Jamie Peacock, and he's one of my favourites of all time, it's not exactly, 2006 Great Britain Jamie Peacock we're getting, is it? It's 2016 business working man Jamie Peacock.
And we'll get to their game later, but I think it was 20 odd.
Did he score 5? Did he score 5 tries and kick a drop goal? Did he?
No, I'm pretty sure it was 20 odd nil before he even stepped on the pitch. Tom.
Oh, well, there you go.
Lee Whitnell got in touch and said, unbelievable, better to finish on the treble, but if he keeps Hull KR up, it's a proper fairy tale. Tim Griffiths got in touch. He said, imagine if your Jamie Peacock and Dane Tills get selected ahead of you. Well, you Tyler's beat you to the punch on the Dane Tills gags. But G from the D at Griff Talks Balls replied to Tim's message. He must be a friend of Tim's. He said, all directors of rugby should do it for at least one game. Chris Fablinski would actually improve the current team.
Yeah, that's a thought, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean...
He did famously come out of retirement to help you out, didn't he, as well, Chris Fablinski?
He did in 2006, yeah. What other directors of rugby have we got? Tim Sheens, could he do a job at hooker for Salford?
I don't know. He's 65, no. Mark. It's probably safe.
I think it's past him, innit? What other directors of rugby do we have across
I'm not sure. I don't really know
the league
of anybody that stands out to me. Like, I don't know if the St Helens have one, do they?
No, they have Matt Grush as the CEO, don't they?
There you go. Warrington don't specifically. What does Lee Breers do at Warrington?
No, he's an assistant.
Apart from dine out.
He's an assistant coach. They have player welfare managers and all that sort of stuff that are former players, but I don't think they have I don't think they have a director of rugby / CEO.
It did get me thinking about long retired.
In fact, I actually think Tony
Smith
Smith is their director of rugby
as well.
Head coach.
I see.
I think he's called director of coaching or something as his official. That's something weird.
There you go.
But yeah, that would be cool to strap the boots on one last time for some of these boys, even if it was not in a real match. Because I don't think Radders has got what he had.
I think these days we could probably fish back the Abira out from wherever he is and get him playing for us, and he'd probably improve things, particularly after this weekend. Sorry, carry on. Okay, that's the end of the feedback on that one. Funny you should talk about Tim Sheens. Actually, Mark, nice little segue, because the Salford Red Devils director of rugby will leave the club this winter to become the head coach of Hull KR for next season. The Australian World Cup winner replaces interim boss James Webster. Sheens, who, as we already mentioned, is 65, is 1 year into a 3-year contract at Salford, but Marwan Kukash said I always said I would release Tim if he got the opportunity to become a head coach. Ian has progressed so well, that means Ian Watson, their current head coach, that there was no prospect of Tim becoming head coach, and I'm very confident he can now cope on his own. Sheens will stay working with the Salford head coach, but would stand down if the two teams had to meet in the playoffs to avoid relegation to the Championship. Interesting one. Hull KR chairman Neil Hudgell believes that the appointment of Tim Sheens as the club's coach for 2017 will help the club to develop in a positive fashion. The coach's appointment is not dependent on KR retaining their Super League status, and Sheens has signed a 3-year deal with Hull KR. Leeds Rhinos hooker.
Oh, we're not going to talk about that story, just for a sec.
Oh, if you wish, yes. You were too busy looking at what I'd put on the floor at one point. Was everything okay?
Yeah, it just seems your pages are in a different order to mine.
Well, that's because we have a new printer at work, and I have forgotten to not make it double-sided. So that's why I'm operating in a slightly different mode to you.
But anyway, it came a bit out of nowhere when the rumours started building up, say, 10 days or so ago, 2 weeks ago, and it surprised me because Tim Sheens had turned down a role with the Eels, hadn't he, in the NRL, and you sort of thought, well, it must be because he's on a good whack at Salford, but obviously it was because he wanted a head coaching job.
There you go. He obviously wants to work at a club that runs its finances slightly more responsibly.
And obviously it's saying it's not going to matter if they go down to the Championship, he's still going to have the job. It seems a bit strange to me that. I don't think he'll want on that gig.
I think if they do go down to the Championship, as much as you say this, and these are all the right noises to be making at this point, if KR get relegated, I will be deeply surprised if Tim Sheens is their head coach at the start of next season. Yeah,
it's a loss for Salford as well. I mean, Watson, we've all sort of felt like Watson's done pretty good in a tough circumstance that being under Marwan Kukash seems to be.
It has been.
But with all the sort of roller coaster ride of the press releases and the impromptu press conferences and the salary cap issues and all that, sort of the personalities and all that. Sheens has seemed to be, when he's been on the Radio Manchester Rugby League show and stuff, he seemed to be quite a steady, sensible guy, and I think they might need another personality into that mix if Kukash does stick around, although it's looking increasingly likely like that he's going to wave goodbye. I hope he doesn't. I really hope he doesn't. No. But I hope if he stays around, he brings in someone else as a buffer to bounce ideas off.
Well, the problem he's got now is that he's said that, Ian Watson can strike out on his own and that he's happy for that to happen. So they might bring someone in kind of a, like a Jamie Peacock style role, or someone who's experienced, and have them in player welfare, that he's got someone to talk to. But
I suppose he has got people like Mars and that at the club, doing those sorts of things. And
let's be completely honest though. Even with Tim Sheens there, Salford aren't exactly pulling up trees, are they? They're not. They haven't.
No, but they were a top out. They were a top 8 side.
They've flown up the table and improved out of sight. All that's happened is that someone, and with the greatest respect to Tim Sheens, someone who's got their head screwed on has turned up at Salford and gone, "What are you playing at? Don't be ridiculous," and done stuff that, in my mind, quite a lot of sensible people would put in place and kind of achieve. So as long as the structures and the things that Tim Sheens in a backroom sense has put in place are retained and continue to be used, maybe it's not the biggest loss in the world. It'll be interesting to see how he fares if Hull KR stay up. It'll be interesting to see how a man of his age, with his, having been out of coaching club side for such a long time,
for like 3 years.
Exactly.
Now,
how long someone who's been out of club side coaching for so long, whether he hits the ground running, and we'll see how he goes. But he does bring a vast experience and knowledge of rugby league, and of course he's got probably a lot of friends down under. So we'll see how we do. Leeds Rhinos hooker James Sayaro has confirmed that he will stay with the club until 2018 after opting to extend his short-term move from the NRL side Penrith. Sayaro scored 5 tries in 7 appearances for Leeds since signing for the club in June, and the 25-year-old began his career with the North Queensland Cowboys before moving to Penrith in 2013. Feedback on this one too, Mark?
Yeah, darts at Mitchell Darts. All the trophies heading back to Leeds in 2017. Hashtag Sayaro stays. And Rich Wilkinson, fucking boom, he fucking loves it, Tom. This is massive for the club. I think this will go a fair way to putting us back in the mix.
I'm delighted from a relatively neutral standpoint that Seguiaro will be playing his trade up here for a couple of years. I think he's a phenomenal player.
Yeah,
really enjoyed.
And he was
what
wanted.
little I've seen of him.
He was wanted by all accounts in